Interviews with haunting gurus. Kicking back in his electric chair is our haunting guru guest, Chris Birkett of the Haunted Graveyard in Scottsdale, Arizona. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, man. You know what? I've been giving AZ Haunters all kinds of love lately. I just hung out with Chad Jensen of Haunt Street. We had him on in our August EP. You got some great haunters out in the Grand Canyon state. I really, a lot of you guys, especially you, weren't even on my radar until recently. And oddly enough, I can't believe nobody has ever mentioned you to me, as I've been doing the show for almost 11 years now. And it just, I just was on YouTube and I'm going through it. I'm looking up videos and I'm like, wait a minute, who the hell is this guy? I've never come across this guy before. Obviously, I haven't done it. Yeah.
I started it in 1986. Now, think about that.
Old school.
Yeah, we're talking about that is going before internet was there. You didn't have a pager. I mean, it was so old school. You'd go to Spencer's Gifts. You'd get a black light bulb, literally a bulb that you'd screw into a metal shop light. And if you got too much moisture on it, it exploded. You'd go to Radio Shack and get a strobe light, just to put up in your tree, and a couple gravestones.
I had the crappy little strobe light that the Radio Shack special that was like the wood grain box.
Yes, I still have one.
I don't think it. Yeah, I think you could speed up and slow down. You know what? I had that thing for years, but I don't think I have it anymore. I don't know whatever happened to it.
You want to know? It was the best strobe light of the time back in the day because the metal. What would you say? Kind of like the illumination, that would bounce off of it, kind of had refracted, almost like a mirrored ball look effect, like little squares. So it really spread it out in different directions, and you really got a lot of just a great look from that specific strobe light back in the day. The funny thing is, when I started, there was not even blacklight tubes available where, like, you go and you get a blacklight bulb. I mean, it was very limited on technology, and throughout the years.
Yeah, I mean, I was haunting back then. It's weird. When somebody asks me how long I've been haunting, I can never say that I started haunting in 79 and I've been haunting straight through, because I haven't. I had taken many years off, kind of came back to doing a house party. That didn't last long. So I've been back and forth, but always tried to do something on Halloween. But I did start in 79 and did it at my house for about 3 or 4 years in a row then, and made some foam. I actually had a sheet of foam in my shed, and it came up with a brilliant idea. Oh, I could make tombstones out of this. And because I had a couple that I made out of wood, but it was like we didn't have any money. I didn't have the money to go out and buy the wood, and I came up with a great idea. Oh, well, I'll just cut this up, and I didn't have any elaborate shapes. It was just your standard rectangle. Yep. It was just a bunch of rectangles, and I had no concept. I didn't even paint them with latex paint. I didn't even think of use latex, and I didn't realize. Well, I quickly found out that if you use spray paint, you're going to destroy. It's going to melt the styrofoam. So I would hold the spray paint way back, so it just misted it enough that it was kind of grayish. And but because they didn't have store-bought tombstones, you couldn't get anything like that. People were just
latex
impressed
paint,
by it. Yeah.
Yeah, and latex paint was harder to come by because a lot of it was oil-based back then. I mean, when you went to the store to buy paint, it was really like that outdoor oil-based paint. So, man, you'd ruin the brush. You'd try to get it out with, like, turpentine, and it would just smell horrible. And, that's kind of where it was back then in the 80s.
Funny, because now since we're going way old school here, I know our listeners won't be able to see this, but have you ever seen this book? Are you familiar with this book? Okay.
No, that's fantastic.
This book is something that I picked up. Oh my God. When was this? Hold on. Let me look at when this thing was printed. Like when the first, if it even says, should say in here, right? Oh man, I've had this thing since definitely the 80s because I had no concept, because there was no internet. This was about as close as I could get. And this book is ridiculous. It's called The Completed Haunted House Book, written and illustrated by Tim Hockelroad. And it's just a bunch of information of how to start your own little, like, Jay-Z's kind of haunt. And it gives you some ideas, some ways, like how to print flyers and, some basic designs on how to put something together. And I think it's ridiculous, but I was so excited that I found this, and I'm like, "Oh my God, there's a book about haunted houses!" And I bought it, and I've gotten like nothing out of it for the most part, but it was just fun, and I still have it in my with my books on the shelf, and I just thought maybe you would had come across this at some point.
Hilarious. You want to? I mean, really, for us, it was, go to Disneyland, go on Haunted Mansion, and be like, wow, that was amazing. How can you build that at home? And that's really, I think, where the beginning of our inspiration. But my brother actually started it in 1983. He built the original 3 gravestones and put the black light bulb and painted them with black light paint, which back in the day, the black light paint was a lot better than the black light paint we have nowadays. Like the phosphorus was almost just a stronger, more powerful wow factor, and for a cheaper price compared to what what some of the expensive black light paints are nowadays. I mean, if you try to get true balanced white paint, which is almost impossible to get in fluorescent nowadays, price-wise, it was almost $500 a gallon, but now I can't even find it anymore. And that was some of the I call it the last of the Mohicans for the paints, because the true balanced white in phosphorus just had that moonlight effect. It literally looked white. It illuminated, but nobody sells that because I guess where they were mining that phosphorus, they said that they weren't mining that anymore. So, and it wasn't available. So whoever bought up the gallons, I remember when I first started buying, it was about $125 a gallon. Then it went to about 2 something. Then it was 4 something. Then it was 5, and then nobody could get it anymore. And there's still paints that are like that, but nothing like some of those original phosphorus paints that were available. So it's kind of sad, because I've been doing it long enough to see technology change extremely. I mean, now, everybody has access to motors and all kinds of armature systems, could make motion animation, props that, will give you the electronic control ability for lighting control and props control. I mean, it's just such a great, to watch the expansion in just 30 plus years has been an honor to be part of that, and when I was doing it, again, no YouTube, there was nobody's stuff to look at. All you had is the trick-or-treaters coming up saying to you, like, this is amazing. And I'm like, oh, maybe next year I make like a dead guy in a coffin and I'll make him move and get out of the coffin. And so that was the next thing. And then I realized that a dead guy in a coffin, to make a motor move him, was not as easy as it sounds. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll use a blow-up skeleton. So I started with blow-ups because it was light, and then I started with cheaper motors. And in the time, then I went to the barbecue motor, and the barbecue motor, into like a deer motor, and a deer motor into real motors, windshield wiper motors and things that wouldn't break. Now it's all about making something. I always say, if you make it cheap or buy cheap, you buy twice. I mean, there's just no hands down, and maybe some people are okay with that, but there's nothing like building a solid product, a solid prop for people to see, so you can, because your audience loves it so much when you put the heart and soul into it, they want to see it next year. And if you get rid of it, it's like Haunted Mansion. If they got rid of the coffin with the guy, opening and closing the coffin, let me out of here, let me out of here, the fans would go nuts.
Yeah, it would be outrage.
Yeah.
The pitchforks would be out, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. The pitchforks would be out. And I have to say that sometimes you also have to think, there's many things that we do for ourselves as builders. Sometimes I'll have a dream. I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, I have to build it. One time, Phantom Ghost Rider. I built the Phantom Ghost Rider, huge motor system, pulleys, belts, huge motor, the whole 9 yards, because I had a real bicycle on it, is riding around, and I put this, Ghost Rider holding on, and all of his, ghostly shroud was just, billowing in the wind as he's riding around with glowing orange eyes. But back then, we didn't have LED technology. So what I did is I made an electrical slip table. So the real electricity was slipping. So as he'd go around, the cords wouldn't get wrapped up because it was constantly on an electrical slip table. And I could make actual real orange eyeballs light up as C7 bulbs in his eye sockets. And people are like, that's sick. Now, I could pull off the same thing easier nowadays with technology. And I've almost debated bringing it back. I had it for years. My audience still talks about the Phantom Ghost Rider, which is one of my most adolescent builds from way back in the day. And people still talk about, I remember the guy on the bike. Some people call it the witch on the bike. Some people call it the Ghost Rider. I think the best thing about it is, when you build something awesome, people notice. I mean, the attention to detail is what makes what we do. It's what makes it come to life. Walt Disney originally said the attention to detail was going to make his theme park. The interesting thing is I just got back from a 16-day trip around Europe, and we went to a theme park called Efteling. Are you familiar with it?
No, not at all.
So everybody I talk to, nobody knows. Efteling, what's this? I have to tell you, out of every place, I've been to every theme park you can imagine. Some of my best ones, of course, Disneyland, Disney World, Knott's Berry Farm, for more of that theme structure, things that we like. Universal Florida. You see the attention to detail from, Walt Disney's second generation Imagineers that everybody loves. But Efteling was built in 1952, which, as we all know, Disneyland was built in 1955. If you go through their fairy tale forest, it is everything that Disney could imagine that they wanted to be, but it was there in 1952 before Disneyland even existed. Well, when Walt looked at all the castles, I have a weird sneaking suspicion he stumbled across Efteling, because when you do a comparison contrast, it is so much better. It makes Disneyland, Disney World, and Universal Studios look like Magic Mountain material. It is 10 times better than what we have here in the States. My mind, just a few days later, I've only been back for a few days, my mind is still blown on what I've seen. I took like 1,000 pictures, tons of video. I've never seen anything like I saw at this theme park. If you watch videos online, you'll be mind blown. There's one ride, Volta Via. I was on it. My mind is still twisted. I don't even know what happened to me. It was so awesome. It was so creepy. But when you go and you see somebody who spent the time on the attention to detail, that's what makes it. Now, when you apply that to your haunt or your haunted house, some people decorate the front of their house. I built a 13-minute haunted house. So it is seriously, on Halloween night last year, we had 8,700 guests in 4.5 hours. Gives you an idea of what we got going on over here. It's a 5-night event. We have 31 actors. It was so bad so intense that I even had a warning sign that it was not suitable for anybody under 13. They could go if they wanted to, but I was pretty much warning them. parental advisory, and I just said, you may crap your pants. And in 5 nights, we actually had 4 people have the mess in the pants. It was disgusting. I had to clean up 3 of them, and I think one he took. Yeah, and it was. So we made an executive decision this year to cut it back. We were usually around 20 actors, never had that issue. But when we ramped it up in the spaces that we have, because you got to remember, when it's free to the public, I don't have to have ADA compliance. I mean, some of my hallways, make you feel horrible just walking through them, whether there's an actor there or not, because everything's so close. So we get a little luckier than paid haunts to be able to screw with people. But I think the biggest thing that I love about the haunt is that you literally people literally come out. They're like, I thought I was going to die, and that's fantastic. It's like you're in a haunted house. It's fake, and everything's built by Home Depot wood and paint and actors loving what they do. But I got to tell you, some of my best actors are the people who don't like to be scared. Those are some of my best actors, and I have a whole bunch of them. They're like, oh, no, I don't go in haunted houses. And I said, you're the type of person I love because you're the best actor. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, why don't you try to be in my haunted house just one night? We're going to dress you up, and just you can do it for an hour. Just try it out. Those guys are the best. They're like, oh my God, that was so amazing. They love scaring people, but they don't like to be scared. And they know what scares them. So they're really good at what it is. So I can only imagine if anybody's looking for haunters, look for the people who are scared of haunted houses. They've been my best actors. Hands down.
So it's the you can dish it out, you just can't take it.
You can dish it out, you just can't take it. 100%. It's been an interesting thing. When I started the production, it was not a walkthrough. It was not a haunted house. It was a visual theatrical display. You'd come up, you'd watch the gravestones moving, the air compression, and grave jumpers, and that was early 90s. I had air compression and grave jumpers since about probably about 97, I would say. And I even made all of the, the air, I made an air cannon to hold the air. All out of PVC and a lot of technical stuff because I didn't want to buy the expensive stuff back then. So then we'd get parts from the washer machine, and it would be used as the cup where the air would shoot into to actually shoot the piston up. And there was a very specific one. I think I still have the model number and everything. And this piece of rubber was perfect inside I think it was like a 2 or 3 inch pipe, a PVC pipe, and it just was perfect diameter. It was seriously things like that gave me the love of the build, because we didn't have this spirit store. We didn't have fright props. We didn't have all of these places. So you had to build it from scratch. And down here in our valley, we have a huge movie theater place, and it's called Harkins Theaters. And Dan Harkins is the owner. And Dan would always come to our display. And I built kind of like the endless hallway, kind of like Haunted Mansion's endless hallway. He's like, he'd go to my brother's house, because my brother still did Halloween. And his is called the House of Haunts. And my brother, Dan would talk to him and say, how does your brother do the endless tunnel? And my brother said, I don't know, man. But it's such old tricks in the book. You got all the magician's tricks from the 1800s, and they're just repurposed. And so I continue to work with some of the illusions, like many people do nowadays. The Pepper's Ghosts, and there's a few others with the double-sided mirror, so for the two-way mirror, and create the endless. We have a mine shaft. You walk over the suspension bridge, and it looks like it goes hundreds and thousands of feet down. And we've had that for so many years.
How does that work? I saw that in one of your videos.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. When I first built it, it wasn't as easy as it sounds, because I built it outside. So I was not in an indoor environment. So I had to dig a 10-foot hole because I was outside, because if it ever rained, I had a well where the water would go in, so it wouldn't ruin the illusion. So there was about 5 feet of a well where water could go to, and then there was about 5 feet of illusion. And I did that just for the safety, because we get a lot of torrential rains. It just comes heavy, and it doesn't go in our ground because it's so hard in Arizona. So I was just preparing for the best. Well, one day I went to service the mine shaft and realized there was a little bit of dirt on the bottom, and I was like, that's weird. So I pulled up one of the boards, and there was all ground dirt. So that means the 5 feet of hollowness filled up with ground dirt. Well, I'm like, well, where did the dirt come from? Well, the sides had collapsed and caved in from underneath our concrete pad. It was just a disaster. So I literally had to rip out the old mine shaft. That I think that one we built for about maybe $3,000 total. I ripped it all out and built a new one, but then we really engineered it pretty awesome, because now we put in a sump pump, poured concrete, did everything so it was kind of like an indoor area. It has its own, if it's too cold outside, because I use it during Halloween and Christmas, we have a kind of like a heating system. So it heats up the inside of the illusion, and it pulls out the moisture through an air vent. And so it didn't fog up during holiday season. And anyways, we made caves with stalactites, stalagmites. $12,000 later, I had a mine. So it was, in the end, though, the illusion, you got the real piece of mirror at the bottom, and what you're looking through is a two-way mirror. Well, you get the repetition effect. So whatever you put in between both mirrors, whether it's a light, a skeleton, a prop, anything that's lit up in there, it will just, duplicate itself over and over until you can't see anymore, down to the darkness. So for a mine, that's great, because it goes down to the depths of nothing. And so I wanted to build it so bad, and finally did. Messed it up the first time with the whole dirt issue, and then built a real solid one. But it's hard to talk your wife into spending $12,000 to build a mine on the side of your house. I mean, and it's a permanent mine on the side of my house. I mean, out of concrete and steel and rebar, and so I have a very supportive wife. I think that's probably really important. So it's been a fun ride, I'll tell you. This is my 34th build this year, so 34 years building consecutively. I've built every year. In 2004, at my old house, I had a neighbor that didn't like it, and so she called the police and called the city and called the mayor. I mean, you name it. It was crazy. One morning I woke up to NPR, National Public Radio or whatever, calling me from the East Coast. So hours, earlier. So they were calling me at like 3:30 in the morning. And they're like, hey, how do you feel about being the man of the morning? And I said, what? Oh, yeah. I'm like, for what? I'm like, they're like, yeah, for your displays you do. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, Winter Wonderland? Yeah, it's cool. And he's like, no, for your Winter Wonderland and your haunted graveyard. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's cool. And he's like, how do you feel about all those people in front of your house? And then I'm like, oh, I get it. The radio guy's going to kind of give me trouble about, having a lot of people in front of the house. And I said, it's not that bad. You get some Molly Trolley tours and bus tours. And he says, no, right now. And I'm like, well, at 3:30 in the morning, there should be nobody in front of my house. I opened up my window, and my whole life changed, because every news station was out front with the booms up. The New York, they had the huge van with a satellite dish beaming me to New York. And I was in the New York Times, and it said I was a Christmas criminal. And my neighbor pressed criminal charges against me. So I was fighting in court 2.5 years. I lost, got convicted, and put on probation for creating unreasonable noise to an individual knowingly. Take every word for what it is, and you have to say them together. That's what I got charged for, and I got convicted. and put on probation for 2 years. I moved, bought new neighbors, and I'm still doing what I believe in. So
you're paying off your neighbors.
I literally decided to. I still love what I do. I mean, I call it a sickness. You know, it's some people have alcoholism. I have holidayism. You know, I mean, it's got to be a real sickness because
I'm down with the sickness.
You down with the sickness? Yeah, it's because guys like us, you can't. I mean, seriously, it makes me want to sing the song now that you said that. I got to tell you, it is seriously. I'm in a position where I can't stop thinking about it. I mean, it's Christmas is over and it's January. I'm like, God, what should I build for Halloween? And I was like, there's no downtime where some years there are where you're like, hey, I need a break. But lately, I just can't stop thinking about it. I'm ordering stuff in January. I'm ordering it in February and March. And I'm trying to order stuff that people have never seen before, stuff that you're not really seeing from the internet, more custom buyers, custom builders, building my own stuff sometimes now. I don't build as much of my custom props like I used to. I say the most exotic prop that I tandemly built with an artist. I brought my grandfather back from the dead. So this is a pretty weird project, but I called my buddy Kyle Thompson at down here in Mesa. We have a thing, it's called Midnight Studio Effects. I don't know if you've ever seen any of
I own about 4 Kyle's props, and I had him on one of our shows about 3 or 4 episodes back. Okay, I think about 3 shows ago I had Kyle on.
Okay, so Kyle and I are personal buddies because we live in the same state and we share the same sickness. So I'll go sometimes when he gets really busy in these next few months. He's like, hey man, I just need you to put pumpkins on, trees. So we're getting dirty together and making stuff for all, Knott's Berry Farm. And I mean, it goes everywhere. Universal Studios, Metallica. I mean, you name it. Somebody has his props. I mean, you can watch some of the shows. I was watching one day Storage Hunters, and they open up the storage thing. I'm like, there's Kyle's prop in a Storage Wars. Yeah, Storage Wars, I think it was. And anyways, it was. It's kind of funny. I called him and I said, I want to bring my grandfather back from the dead. He used to walk around like what would you say, Count Dracula? He's dressed up with the cape and the whole 9 yards, the lanyard, fang teeth. And I had pictures and video of him, and he has since passed. I said, let's look at the pictures and video. So Kyle sculpted my grandfather out of clay. What do you think about this? And then I sat down at the clay, and I'm like, well, let's change his ears and do this, and that. And then he would, we kept working it for, quite a few days. Finally got Grandpa in clay. And then, of course, did the reverse molds and, all the stuff, turned them into foam. And now I have an actual life-size figure of my dead grandfather. The old clothes that he wore, we put on it. So it's his real clothes, his real boots, his real shirt. It's creepy. And my mom, she's like, I just can't look at it. It's her dad. So she's like, it's so creepy. It looks just like him. And then my brother's like, I don't know what's wrong with you, man. Like, there's something seriously wrong with you. But that's part of the sickness. I was like, we're making dead skeletons and props. Why not bring back family members? So, yeah, that's how my brain works. So it's crazy. I wish I had the prop so I could show you right here, but he's back in storage. He's on somewhere. If you see I
saw the video. I was going to actually ask that. You're making this very easy for me because you've already covered about 20 questions I was going to ask you without even me having to try. So
that's it's. I think when you love what you do, the passion shows to the audience, to your build. There's nothing I can say other than if you have the dream and you have the sickness and you're down with it, like you said, you got to take that first step, the first lunge. Go to Home Depot, buy some wood, buy some rubberized rubberized silicone, some liquid installation foam. Just get the things that you think is going to create it, and learn from your mistakes, especially for the new haunters. The people who are trying to figure it out. I mean, there's nothing like having a liquid installation can accidentally blow up in your face, and you have for 2 weeks yellow liquid foam on your face. I mean, that happened to me.
What you have to learn is that whatever you make, it's gonna suck. The first couple of things you make, you're gonna look back in 5 years and go, "Oh my God, that was terrible."
Yes.
But in 5 to 10 years, your skills will be so much stronger, and you'll be doing much better product and or much better props or whatever it is that you're working on. I was like, I found one of my videos on YouTube, one of my early haunt videos, and this goes back maybe about 10 years, and I was just laughing. I'm like, oh my God, that was so terrible. And I thought it was good. I had it in my head that, maybe I could win one of those Haunter award things. And I was like, no way. I can't compete. I do a small home haunt with a small walkthrough. And one of the reasons I haven't been motivated this year, like I finally got off my ass about 2 to 3 weeks ago, is that I had trouble. I lost some people last year. I only have a few people that I can usually depend on, and they kind of bailed. And I busted ass, and we had a good Halloween, but there was so much that wasn't going right that I was out of it for a number of months after that. And then I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do a walkthrough this year, which is a big part of the creative, the putting things together. And until just a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to a guy who had a home haunt that got shut down on the other side of my town. And his son and one of his friends are going to help out. So now I'm like, great, I got a couple of scare actors this year. I'm back in business. So
yes.
I started buying shit, and I started working on some projects, cut out a tombstone, did a few things, and now I am pumped. Now I am in the zone, and I'm on eBay trying to buy cylinders and bouncing all around. I need a real cool mask I can use on this pop-up, and I've been digging around trying to find some cool masks and stuff. So now I'm all in. I'm all in.
You know what I'm digging this year. Now they have the new Scream boxes, and I'm kind of digging that. Fright Props had them for like, I don't know, $80 or something crazy like that, and it's got a motion sensor on it that in pitch dark, it will pick up anybody walking. And it just screams. It's a big speaker, and it's like, rah, and you can put any sound you want in it. And I'm like, what a great idea. It's like having an actor without having an actor in a spot. Well, then I found the same box on Amazon for like $49.
Which is
same
usually
thing.
the case.
It was just a different box. And so I bought it, and it came, and it was the same one that I bought from the Fright Props. I had them both next to each other, same exact Scream in it, same exact box, just except for the box that they put it in was just changed, which is fine because, God bless Fright Props. It's one place you can go and find the things that you need. But for people who are limited on actors, I mean, for $49. To have an actor scream in the complete darkness in your ear, and he's not even there. I mean, fantastic. You'll hear somebody crap their pants.
Yeah. I bought one of the I forget what it's called. It's something like a Scream box.
Yeah.
But I bought the battery. It's like a little battery that goes in a fanny pack, and it connects to the speaker that hangs around. I took a wire, I made a little necklace kind of a thing, and the speaker hangs. And I hooked up a finger, like a little push button trigger.
Yeah.
So I loaded the MP3 on there with this monster growl, because every Halloween I'm like, jumping out from behind whatever, screaming. My voice I'm wasted for 3 days. I can't speak. So I thought, and I saw something similar to that they were using in Hollywood Studios when I went back a couple of years for the 20th anniversary down in Orlando. And I realized what they were doing is they were triggering, and they had a speaker set up probably to a prop controller, and the actor would either just step on the mat to trigger or push a button, and you'd hear like sound effects coming out of the creature. And I'm like, because that's not a human voice. I knew that was a sound effect. So I'm going through my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm like trying to figure out what they're doing. And then I kind of put it together. But Fright Props actually has this when you hang around your neck, you hook it up to batteries. I think you could hook it up to an array of AA, like a battery pack. But I just bought the rechargeable battery that you can stick in like a fanny pack. The thing's awesome. Like I jump out, it was so friggin' loud. Well, I was jumping out, and I had it like taped around my arm, so the trigger was always hanging right by my palm, so it was easily I could just grab it and fire. It scared the shit out of people all night long. I woke up the next morning, I was like, la, and my voice was perfect. I was like, this is great. I'm fucking using this thing all the time. I highly recommend, if you don't have one, get one. It's pretty cool. And I looked all over eBay and everywhere else trying to find one at a little bit of a cheaper price. It's really not. I think it was like $80 for the battery pack in the bag, but the little device was only maybe like $25 that hung around your neck that you can plug in. You plug the trigger into and whatever. But it was awesome. It's super cool. Anyway.
Fantastic. I think just things like that, give a little bit of extra push to a walk-through haunt. Or, if you want to make kids drop their candy and run, fantastic. I mean, it's that's what it's all about. In our haunted house, I usually, it's so hard to tell people, hey, don't bring your candy in. But we usually don't do clowns, but one year I'm like, you know what? There was this crazy guy running our streets, scaring the crap out of people, this clown guy. And this mom comes up to me and she's like, you're a clown, chase my kid across the street. And she's all up in my face. And I'm like, ma'am, we don't have any clowns. And no, you do. And she's all up in my face. Then a guy came and started yelling at me about this clown. And then the police came. And they're like, hey, you can't have your people scaring. I'm like, all my people are in the haunt. Nobody's out scaring. So I'm like, what are they talking about? So I start searching the streets. I told everybody, I'll be right back. I start searching the streets. I found the clown. It's this guy. And he was chasing people literally across busy streets. I mean, it was dangerous. And I said, dude, you can't do that anymore. And I says, I'll tell you what, if you really love scaring people, you come back next year. I'll make a room for you. And you can scare all the people you want, and so we did it for about 2 years, and there's just, tons of screams, but also he's so intense. I mean, he's up in your face, grabbing your shoulders. I mean, it was so intense. And they're like, you can't touch me. And like, well, we can, but I mean, you came to a private residence. We could, we're limited, but you can. We're not a paid haunt. We don't have a sign out front. We're not touching you, So long story short, there was enough confrontation where I was like, okay, I'm good after 2 years. I think we're going to calm down with so we did the clown thing and brought it in because of this one gentleman that was scaring people on the streets. So that was pretty scary. I mean, to add somebody that I didn't know but we did it for 2 years. It was cool. But then we got out of the clown stuff. But the year we added him, we got in trouble the year before it came out, for the clown guy. And then we said, hey, I'll build the room for you. Right when I build the room, all of a sudden the movie It was coming out too. So I'm like, what a perfect time to have a clown room. And we had, in 30 years, we never had one. So when you see some of the pictures where there's a couple of clown stuff, we did that 2 seasons. And, we've retired the clown room just because we're retiring the scare. So I don't get in trouble people love to leave reviews about a free haunt. So we have.
I love how people could complain about free. I don't know.
I'm like, if you don't want to be scared, don't come. And then people are like, well, yeah, but you chased me. I'm like, it's Halloween. But yeah, people leave reviews, good, bad, and ugly. And so, it is what it is. I mean, it's the wonderful millennial world and I can't just blame millennials. Everybody's doing it, but it's definitely a different world.
No, it's the boomers' fault. Always blame the boomers.
Crazy stuff, man. Any good questions that you have?
Well,
for me?
there's stuff about the haunt. Now, explain the castle facade.
Yes. Oh, the castle. The whole bottom part. That's my real house. When you look at all the stonework, that's real stone. That is tough to talk your wife into changing your house into a castle. But I said, "Hun, wonder if," and I drew it on paper, and I showed her the paper, and she looks and she goes, "I don't get it." I'm like, "Just wait," and I redrew, and I'm like, "Huh?" And she's like, "I still don't get it." I'm like, "I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to start building it, and if you don't like it, we'll try to tweak it." And she's like, "Okay." I'm like, "I've got the vision. It's going to be great." So when you look at that whole bottom part with the big arches and the stone, that's my real house. The facade up top, that's all coroplast plastic, really thick coroplast. And hand painted with artistic paint job, so it looks weathered, it looks old. Then of course you wash it with the LED wash lights, and ours are computerized. It's an LOR stuff, so I can create thunder and lightning. I can kind of have fades where it sounds like a ghost is going by, and the lights kind of shimmer across where it looks like some kind of evil entity just went by. If it sounds like wind is blowing out the candle, all the light can go out on the house in like a sequential form where it looks like the wind just blew out all the light and the thunder and lightning starts. I have a life-size dragon that breathes real fire. That's awesome. And it was a special edition dragon. Home Depot had sold the orange, I think the orangish red one, and then they made a blue one that was online only. I think there was only I'd have to look at the number on the dragon, but anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 of these things made in the whole world. We bought one, but I'm like, I want real fire. I want this to do it. So we came up with lots of concepts because it's a plastic material. Fire could melt it. So what we did is LED RGBs out of its mouth all the way down to the ground, and in a deep kind of red fireball look with fog everywhere. You just see the fireball come down, and then we have one of those flame units, and boom, real fire comes up, and you hear him rah rah rah, and he's animated. His mouth moves and he shoots the fire, and we have the noise whoosh, boom, it was awesome. So that's what we added last year. So this year will be our second year for our fire-breathing dragon. But a lot of people seem to go pretty nuts over the fire-breathing dragon. So
yeah, it's a great effect. Is this all plugged into like some system that you're using, plus is software that you can use to program?
Yeah.
So what are you using?
So it's a mixture. So way back, so I started years ago before the internet. In 1996, I went to Disneyland, and I was sitting there watching Fantasmic on Rivers of America, and I was like, I want to do this on my home. I wanted my home to perform. So I called the company who made it for Disneyland and said, hey, I want to do something like this. And the guy says, hey, this is not for a guy's house. This is commercial product. It's really expensive. How much? We went through what I needed. Guy said, that would be like $32,000. And I'm like, okay. So he sent me all of this stuff. I said, when can you send it to me? He said, are you serious? I'm like, it's either I quit Christmas or I do that. So I bought it for Christmas originally. Martha Stewart saw it, and she's like, I have to show this to the world. So Martha showed it to the world in the late 90s. Which was before the internet and YouTube. And I remember the year that I was doing it, people were talking about making emails for each other. Like, oh, I should make an email so I can send you an email. So that kind of gives you an idea of where it's time-stamped. And it was the first, what I would consider it's still digital, but it was kind of like digital/analog lighting display, because the music, relatively speaking, was kind of like a digital analog, and I had to do it with MIDI controllers, and I had to link a computer MIDI controllers, DMX, and all of the pieces of the puzzle together to make it do its thing. And when we completed it, it was the first digital computerized light show with snowfall on a home in America, which was an honor. It was totally awesome. Martha loved it. She showed it to the world, and that's time stamped. You can still go to Martha Stewart's website. I was a lot younger. I look like a different person, but she showed it to the world. And so the first year kind of sucked, like you said. You built something and you're like, or you did some radio and you were like, man, I sucked. Well, my shows were kind of like, it'd make a noise, da, and something would light up, da da da, and another thing would light up, and it was didn't have a lot of action and adventure. Along the way, I wanted to start making scene sets, so I made a show from Edward Scissorhands, and it was a bedtime story that the little girl told, and then she goes, you see, ever since he's gone back up there, it snowed ever since. She goes, and sometimes you can still imagine me dancing in it. And so I turned on all of these blue lights on this ice angel I made, and all the snow machines turned on, and people outside just crying, oh my God, this is so awesome. I mean, we don't get snow in Arizona. So I realized that I touched the heartstrings from not even doing not even creating a show that was to the beat, to the music. The problem with a lot of LOR product nowadays is you see them, but because there's no heart and soul, there's no stage show. It's all beats to the music. Everything's to the beat. Boo, boo, doo, 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 doo. It's kind of had that epileptic seizure type feel to me. So I was like, I want something that's not like that. I want to create, like, my lights are the dancers dancing on stage. It doesn't always have to be to the beat. So I had created, a whole different feeling to that. Along the way, PC was born, which is Planet Christmas. And that made what I was doing a lot cheaper. And then a gentleman that was a house decorator, it's like, I can do it better than PC. And he created a company called LOR, which is Lightorama. And I talked to his wife. She's such a sweetheart. She's like, yeah, we were just doing it, and we thought we could do it better with computer technology. And so they took computer and the relay control system, and now you can design from the comforts of your own home on a computer. You just draw out your house or take a picture of it and draw the Christmas trees, and you can make the performance all year long, where before I had to set up all my stuff and I had to record it live. and so I'm out in the cold. My wife's bringing me out hot chocolate and all the stuff just so I can get the show done. Long story short, LOR was so convenient. I'm like, how can I merge everything that I own with LOR? So I found a way to convert it to DMX so it could speak static. And to be able to take LOR and speak static, the nice thing about that, when you buy an LOR box, an Lightorama box, each channel is only 1 to 2 amps per channel. You can't really control a lot from that. So each one of my packs, I can control up to 30 amps of current. I mean, I could lift up big stages if I wanted. I can turn on snow machines just from electricity. I don't even have to be DMX controlled on anything. So I kind of have the old school married with the new school, and that's where my control system is. Then I start thinking, geez, I own all of this. What about Halloween? Maybe I can do thunder and lightning. Maybe I could do this. Maybe I can do that. Well, then I found out that RGB you can control with LOR. So on a separate controller, now I can control all my controls and the RGB. So that's where we got the fireball effect with the RGB lights through a whole separate controller LOR sound. Then LOR is like, hey, we sell floodlights that are computer controlled. So instead of just floodlighting the house purple or green or whatever it was with the castle, now I can control it and make thunder and lightning with it and do it. One year I'm like, hey, let's do it all orange. Let's do it all green. Let's do it all, whatever it is. We have the power in our hands now to do whatever our theme is, which is kind of nice. It's just different from where me.
Yeah, it's
for me and you started.
Tech, man. It looks amazing.
It's so much fun, and 30 years does that. The production last year, with everything that I've accumulated throughout the years, it was $147,000 production, and so I could have bought a house back, at least a house back in the day.
Now, what instead I own this is all your own personal money?
Yeah, in 30 some odd years. So I get pretty lucky. So I own a entertainment company. So we entertain audiences for a living. Um, so I have DJs. We go out and DJ for bride and groom's wedding days and events. So I always tell people during Halloween and Christmas, it's the only time you get my entertainment for free. Other than that, you have to pay for it. So it's been an honor to. So it's kind of just my give back to the community. The sickness has gotten worse throughout the time. Like I'm like, hey, let's build a mine. There's $12,000 here. Let's build a this. So a lot of my props and things are really expensive. This year, an artist on eBay was selling this beautiful. You've been on Pirates of the Caribbean, right?
Mm-hmm. Numerous.
So you know
times,
this. Yeah, you know the scene where the skeleton's on the bed with the magnifying glass, and behind him there's kind of like this cool ornate frame, and there's a skeleton head and crossbones behind him. This artist recreated the exact thing. I mean, found the exact frame, put the red velvet, and it's just amazing. It looks exactly to the T how Pirates had it, but he wanted $4,500 because it's a real custom-built art piece. I got really lucky on the price because I told them I'm not offering you any amount of money because I think it would be a slap in the face. I just told him what my budget was. And I won't share that budget because I'm sure he's a very well-known artist with the work I've seen from him. But I told him my budget, and I said, if you ever don't sell it, give me a call, and I might be totally interested. And after a week or so, he calls and said, you know what? I've seen your stuff. Let's do this. And I said, all right, perfect. So we exchanged the money versus this killer prop. So like sometimes I'll buy something really almost like Kyle, you know, you'll buy one of his pumpkin monsters or his archways with all the pumpkins, or, you know, it might be a $2,000 prop or a $1,500 prop, but it will last long, and it's a great look, and you didn't buy it at the spirit store, you know, so.
Yeah. So you're going to be very unique. Like the props that I've had out of my yard. Like I had the little fawn prop out in my yard for 5 straight years, just getting rained and sun beat down on it. And the thing didn't crack. The thing is, like, you know, the skin didn't crack open. The thing looks amazing, you know. You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody a couple of years ago about Kyle, and they said this is somebody who's like been in the haunt business, like a pro haunter for years.
Forever.
Goes, you know what? The one good thing about Kyle is he doesn't know how good he is. So, you know, one of these days he's going to figure it out, and his prices are going to go up, and they just did.
Yeah.
I just noticed all his product went up like $100 to $200 per piece, and I was like, "Oh, I got that for like $4. It's like $6 now. Damn." Well, it was good for me, but you know now it's. You know, but he deserves it. I mean, his stuff is worth more money. So I always thought he was underpricing himself anyway.
Well, he was doing it out of the house, but he just got a studio down the street from me in Scottsdale, Arizona. So, you know, when you're running and paying for a studio, that, you know, starts bringing up the cost of prices. But now a real client can fly down and go to the studio and just see some great props, you know, some great things that say, yeah, we need 4 of those, 8 of those, 6 of those, 10 of those. And, you know, and that's what really happens. Some of these theme parks, they'll come down and say, this is what we want. And of course he'll do all of those, you know, fright cons and, you know, different things. Well, he'll go to it, show his product off. But I agree. He doesn't know his worth, but he's just an amazing human being, especially when you're with him live and you're working. You know, I've seen him through his good, bad, and ugly, you know, the good days and the bad days. And we're working out the heat in Arizona. You got to remember, some of the days here, it's 115, 118. We're outside with liquid installation foam and spray paint. You know, I mean, you know, you're high as a kite and dehydrated as hell. So it's just fun stuff, man. I mean, it's definitely a world that when people say, oh, do you think I should do something like this? I recommend it to anybody, but I warn people, this is not for a limited wallet, because your sickness starts, oh, maybe this, maybe that, and before you know it, thousands of dollars later, you're into it. So I kind of tell people you might not want to do it because it's just like getting addicted to smoking. I mean, it's going to be expensive.
Yeah, it starts off with a butt, then oh yeah, I only smoke when I drink.
Yeah,
and then I just happen to drink every day. No, but it goes. As somebody who got into smoking and then quit smoking, that's what you have one here and there. You have more. Next thing you know, it's the same thing with this. As you really start to get into it, and if you're also trying to kind of compete with other haunters, you see what they do, and you're like, oh, I've got to make mine better now. I want to do this and that, and you get ideas from other people. I know a lot of me was also like, as much as I love to be creative, I also like to kind of compete. I'm like, I need mine to be better. Now I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't compete with anybody because I do it all by myself. Now, How many people do you have that help out with the entire setup?
So I do the build because it's so technical. I mean, I have 15 stages of audio. I've got to build hallways for 13 minutes of haunted house, and it literally goes through my garage, the side yard, the backyard, a section of my house that was hard to talk my wife into. I start August 1st, and in my free time I do about 20-hour days. Like last night I was up till 4 a.m, woke up at about 7, and I just started hitting it again, So I every day right now, I'd say 18 to 20 hours I'm doing. I call it Jenny Craig. I mean, at the end of summer, I'm getting, tubbier than I was. And, I've got the baby belly. And then by the end of Halloween and Christmas build, last year I lost 16 pounds. I mean, it's insane. So, and we're sweating out the toxins here in Arizona.
Chris Birkett's weight loss program. You're going to patent this?
Yeah, I'm going to patent.
Say it's going to cost a shitload of money.
Yeah, it's going to cost a shitload, but you are going to be thin as hell. And the best thing about it, I'll be like, all right, you ready? Okay, pick up the pumpkins. All right, put the pumpkins over here. There you go. Here, get out the gravestones. Okay, stack them up. Put them out front. Put them out back. Yeah, it's just it's funny. It takes it to a whole new level to know that your sickness is part of your health program. It's so much fun, man. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And that's why it's addictive. Because it's so much fun.
It's so much fun.
People can't get it until you have to do it one time to get it.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like
100%.
One hit of heroin. You got to do it at least once to get it, and then you're chasing the dragon. Yeah, chasing.
Right, and there's so many people that come up to me. They're like, because my brother does it right down the street. Oh, you're trying to compete with your brother, and we actually, because we're such artists. I mean, I didn't realize I was an artist until. Probably about 10 years ago, when people start talking about, oh my God, I love your work, and I talked to Roland Crump, and one of Walt Disney's second generation Imagineers, and he says, he didn't realize he was an artist, but people are like, oh, I love your work, and I'm like, people do that to me all the time, and he's like, and then I realized one day that I have a style, and that's me. And so I didn't realize I was an artist until probably 10 years ago. It took me 20 some odd years to be real with that. But when you're doing your own artwork, I don't need to see other people's stuff. I'm dreaming up dreams that I wake up from. I'm like, oh, I got to build that. I got to do this. And then people come here and do that. It's been an honor. I've created some pretty unique things. I don't know if you've seen the Face Hallway. SeaWorld came up and they said, hey, we really want to recreate your Face Hallway. Will that be okay? So California's SeaWorld has our Face Hallway. They did them hot pink, though. So that was kind of an honor. You pump a bunch of fog in there. The faces appear right in front of your face just at the last minute. It's when we take video, we do it with the fog out of it because it's just too hard to see in video with the whole room pumped with fog. But when you're here live, it's such a great illusion.
Where'd that concept come from?
The concept, that's an awesome thing. So my Aunt Dale used to work for a sleep lab. And she's like, hey, I just didn't know if you're interested. I know you always need like weird props and stuff, but we got these sleep lab heads. And they put like PAP masks on them and stuff, and we're getting rid of all of them. And we have about 20 heads. Would you want these heads? And I was like, can you take a picture of them? So she takes a picture. I was like, that's creepy. I'm like, wonder if we like paint them all the same color, because some were blue, some were gray, some were white. Wonder if we paint them all white and hang them in a room. And then one of the people will cut one of the faces and we'll put it on a person. So one of them's real, but you don't know which one. And so that's where it started. And then we pumped all this fog in there. And then they just kind of illuminated. And then all of a sudden you see one move in the fog. And I have to tell you, people crap their pants. And it was a great concept. But I have to thank my Aunt Dale, because she worked at a sleep lab and they were getting rid of heads. And that's how that concept came up, because it was just props somebody gave to me, and that's where I got the idea for the thing. And the idea was brainstormed between me and my cousin Sean. My cousin Sean does a lot of my drawings for like where we're gonna walk, how people are gonna come in, and how big the hallways are gonna. And he does it to scale too, so we know how many feet everything is, and it's a lot of work for him. So it's his mom that says, hey, I don't know if you guys want these heads. And so that's where it came from. And then we came up with the concept. People loved it. SeaWorld asked if they could copy the headroom. And then there's a haunt in Tucson, and the gentleman down there, he's like, oh, my God, I come to your thing all the time. He goes, just to get ideas for the next year. But he's a paid haunt. And I was like, that's kind of an honor, too. You got paid haunts wanting to see what the hell I did for the next year. And we've been free to the public forever. I love keeping it that way. We take donations, of course, because it helps with the sickness, because it's so expensive.
How do you do with donations? Like, what do you?
I think pretty good. The sickness outweighs the donations, because I'm spending thousands more than what comes in. But it always helps. Then I don't have to buy the fog juice. Somebody else is paying for it, because when you're getting the donations, it helps with all the little technical stuff, the breakdowns and the fog juice and the, for Christmas, the snow fluid so I think we do pretty good with how many people that we have coming in when you look at a crowd, because last year we had just over 20,000 guests in 5 nights. If I got $1 for each one of those people, I would be really happy. But it just doesn't work out like that. A lot of local people, oh yeah, I gave them last year, and it was probably 5 years ago they gave it to you, and they come through over and over again, which is totally fine. That's I didn't build it for a financial gain. I built it for the happiness of it. But it is nice to also have the financial support. So, like, your wife doesn't want to leave you, or from all the spent money.
I'll tell you, I've already watched Haunting ruin quite a few marriages.
Yeah,
I'm not laughing about it because it's funny, but I've just seen numerous haunters that I know, and because of their sickness, and the wife not being on the same page, if she's not or he's not, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a hard going experience,
It is. So you got to have somebody who's kind of in it with you. I've been pretty lucky so far. I can't tell you how the next 10 or 20 years goes, but I'll tell you, right now we're good. And but it's nice to it's nice to have the support. It's nice to have the support from the community. So then she's like, hey, it's not all out of our pocket. You get a little support from the people, and that's been awesome. And then we just had a television show on ABC called The Great Christmas Light Fight. We're season 5, episode 5, and we won the Great Christmas Light Fight on ABC, which was an honor, because a beautiful trophy if you have ever seen the show, and $50,000 doesn't kill anybody, so that was an honor. And that's for my Christmas show. It's Winter Wonderland Arizona on Facebook, and then Haunted Graveyard Arizona is my Facebook page. And then we also have another television show on TLC called Invasion of the Christmas Lights. And that was an older show, but they show reruns every year. If you're a TLC fan, you can turn it on. It tells the stories of like when I fell off the roof and broke some ribs, good stuff like that. So yeah, it's not for the weak-minded doing, it's not always fun in games, especially when you break a rib. So
you got to get some battle scars in there, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. It's and not a lot of shows for Halloween. They had the Halloween Fright Fight one year in 2014, and it was they said it was really hard for them to get a time slot because all good shows are coming out right then. They got lucky one year and got it, but never had it since. I'm on the list for Fright Fight if they ever do it, since we won the Great Christmas Light Fight. They put us on Fright Fight list if it ever happens again. It probably won't, but if it ever does, that would be an interesting concept to come in and get to go around, against people in America. Originally, I was against the concept, but ABC does such a classy job with those type of shows. It doesn't seem like I'm like fighting for Christmas. What? But it's such a classy film when you watch it that it just limited drama, and it's awesome. They did a good job with that. It's not every time media does a great job with something, but they very honorably put together a show. So
hey, what other type of really cool effects, high tech or low tech, do you have in your haunt? That
I think some of the best things, I pump in smells everywhere for Halloween, Christmas. People just love the added feature, burning wood, kind of like Spaceship Earth in Epcot Center where you're going through burning Rome. I have that through my mine shaft, and people are like, oh my God, smell the burning wood. Like pump in, scents like that, or like I have one that smells like dead old lady. It's awesome. It's just awesome. I remember one time when we built a bathroom, what we did is we put paint outside for a whole year in Arizona, which when you open it up, we call it smelly paint, stinky paint. You open it up and woo, the smell comes out of it. We painted all the gray dripping and stuff like that with this stinky paint. And you walked in that bathroom for a good 3 years, and people were like, oh, what's that smell? It was just old, stinky paint. It was awesome. So sometimes we'll do stuff like that just for fun. I told my cousin, I was like, maybe we should just, urinate here. It would smell just like the bathroom. And he's like, we're not doing that. But, I'm not saying the concept wasn't talked about, But I gotta say that it is definitely always an honor to think of great ideas. I'd say between lighting techniques is huge. Audio is one of the biggest things. If you went to Disneyland and walked down Main Street with no music playing, it'd be cool, but it just doesn't suck you into it. So I can only, for people who haven't done it a long time, audio is a big deal. That's why I have 15 stages of audio. It's everywhere, and this year even more now that I bought sound boxes and stuff. It's one of the most important things, and I use really big speakers. So sometimes when you have the big bass notes, boom, 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 it's just shaking in the room. The walls are shaking. People love that, I don't know. It's between lighting, sound, smells. That seems to be some of my favorite. Fog machines, I just can't get enough of them. It is, my first fog machine, you actually had a handle and you had to pump it up. There was no electric pumps. I got that in 1989, 1990. You pumped it up and you push a button and it would go for about 10, 15 minutes before you had to pump it up again. It was like the funniest thing. I think it was an Olsen fogger, and it was for stage performances. And then shortly after that, they came out with the electric pump. Well, years later, I pulled it apart, and it wasn't electric at all. It was a rubber tube with a mechanical motor, and it would actually kind of have an off-shaped camshaft, and it would turn around and push the actual rubber tube and create suction. and that's how the first electric pumps were made in fog machines. And then it went to real electric pumps, which has changed the world. And then timers. First time I had to get a timer made for like real machinery and figure out how to put it into a fog machine for it to work. And then years later, they sold them with timers. It was great. So that kind of stuff, I definitely, machines and electric and lighting is my favorite, because without it, we couldn't do as cool of stuff. Air props are cool, but they're a pain in the rear. And you want to know, and it's just nowadays the audience doesn't care about them as much. I mean, you could have the coolest air prop, and if it's not, actually killing the person, they're like, oh yeah, look at that guy. Oh yeah, look at that guy. So I've kind of starting to shy away from air props because everybody's seen everything on the internet and nothing's scary anymore. Every once in a while you see one random video where like there's a guy in a window and he's like, going, you're like, oh, that was scary, and somebody, but very, very unoften do you see something that is great in air compression anymore. So I'm starting to go back to motors like the old days. I think people really love moving stuff. So anything
not like a startle effect, just kind of eye candy kind of a thing.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Not a star. I think I'm gonna leave the startle up to the actors and not up to the air props and motors like the old days. People love. Oh, look, that gravestone's moving. Hey, it's cracking open. There's a lady coming out of it. I mean, people love that stuff. And if you get a chance, look at those Efteling videos. Some of the stuff in the magical forest that they got, the fairy tale forest, everything's everything's animated. It is the coolest thing you've ever seen, man.
What country is that in?
It's in the Netherlands. It's a 1 hour away from Amsterdam.
Huh.
So Efteling's amazing, I think, because for anybody who's into building and creation, I mean, this is the dreamers of 1952. Everything's, even if you have a little mouse and he's spinning around in a circle, but you put 5 of them and they're all spinning different directions and have it fun, it's just a simple spin motor. But because somebody visually is looking at it and it's orchestrated well, it's like going through Small World. Those are all basic old, like Ranger motors, and everything's moving. And people are like, God, Small World's so great. Small World still to this day is the busiest attraction in Disneyland theme park. If you look at the numbers, Small World moves the most people, and the most people go on it every single year. And, that came from the 1964 World's Fair. So with Efteling, I just say if you watch like the Fairy Tale Forest and you look at all the vignettes and the motion animation and sound, it's mind blowing.
Now, are you posting video on your YouTube channel?
For a video of my Halloween.
No, of your trip to Efteling.
Oh, my trip. I could. I have a whole bunch of stuff. I have not yet because we've only been back a few days, so I haven't even gone through the pictures. Mm-hmm. I've been lately trying to get back with my DJ business where I'm like got to call the clients and make meetings. So we're trying to get back to when you're gone 16 days. It really does business damage,
No, it's funny. I was DJ Chris Baker for a lot of years. I worked in radio for a number of years in the early 90s. Worked for a satellite network. I had a DJ business. I worked in nightclubs in Boston. Got away from the business for a few years when I was in sales, got back into the business in the early 2000s. And up until just a couple of years ago, I was doing, maybe like 40, 50 weddings a season down here on Cape Cod. So I had a pretty decent business going for a while. And just a single operator, no guys working for me. And then I started another business and it took off. And I just kind of gradually phased out of my DJ business because this was more profitable. But not that I probably could have handled both, but I was frying myself out,
Right.
And then I would have to cut the haunt out, and that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I love with these DJing, because we do weddings, it's on the weekends. So I get all weekdays to build a haunt. I get a lot of freedom. And if I want to take a huge vacation with my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take off this day, and that day. And we kind of pre-plan it where I'm not going to book, so we can hang out together and enjoy family time. It just makes it totally makes it easy to have that freedom, especially when you're building a haunt like we do. And then I have to rip down all the Halloween stuff, and I only have less than a month to build Christmas. So
that I cannot do. I can only do one holiday. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm a holiday guy, and there's a bunch of my listeners and people who I know, haunters, that do the same. And I'm amazed, because by the time Halloween's over, I'm wiped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, usually I go on, I take vacation in November too. I try to get away from a week. So once Halloween's over, I can put things away and then go off and take a break and try to relieve my Halloween depression, my post-Halloween depression. All right, man. So look, I don't want to. We've already kept you long enough. Lots of great stuff in there. You didn't make me fight you for it either.
I know.
And it's no wonder, because you're a DJ as well.
Yeah. DJs, we like to talk. And also, I think to share, the common community of what everybody loves. And, nothing's a secret. My life is an open book. So we're we're in a position where, if you can inspire others when we're too old to do it, then at least we have somebody's house to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So where can people find information about the haunt, videos, pictures? Where can they find all that?
Yeah, it seems to be the best. We have websites for both of them. The website for Halloween is basically www. and then it's hauntedgraveyardaz.com, and the AZ is for Arizona. So hauntedgraveyardaz.com, and Winter Wonderland is winterwonderlandaz.com, and those are both of the websites. And we lightly update those, not so much video, but more of the the basic pictures and about and all that stuff. Yeah. Then when you go to the Facebook pages, that's so easy to upload. Hey, here's a new video. Here's that. That seems to be our popular one. That's where we get tons of our viewers. If I post a picture, everybody's like, boom, 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 And so it's been an honorable area for I call them foamers, my foamers, people who foam at the mouth about our projects. So it's a great place for foamers, people who are interested in that. And that would just be Haunted Graveyard Arizona, and then with Arizona spelled out. And Winter Wonderland on Facebook is Winter Wonderland Arizona, and that's of course with Arizona spelled out as well. And those are the best places to find my stuff. Because of my age, they're lucky that they're getting that. So, because I still, until like 2 years ago, had a paper calendar. So then my wife's like, no, you have to have a digital one. I'm like, what? My paper calendar never lies, hun. But it just, she's, even though I'm into tech, sometimes I don't need a Facebook. I don't need a this. And then somebody's like, no, I'm just going to make you one. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then you got sucked into it, so... I'm 44 now. Time flies when you're having fun. But I got to tell you, it's, what we do, it's not for the weak-minded, It sucks you in and takes you for a ride. So, the only best thing I could say is happy Halloween to all the haunters out there, especially for our wonderful 2019 year. And I hope everybody keeps it safe and make sure to scare the shit out of everybody.
Awesome, Chris. Happy Halloween.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.
Please like and follow the podcast. Stalk us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Links in the description. And help us by sharing Hauntcast with all your haunted Halloween brethren. Until next time, stay